and how do you propose we do this?
Yeah, look, good question. Slightly, again, not factual, but we'll go through that. This question's put sort of ignoring the fact of the last 6 years of this government. So the last 6 years of this government, they came in, like I've been explaining all the way through this, they came in and legislated a 2.5% wage cap. They then legislated the wage cap, and then also then the LEC. So, here's your 2.5%, but each directorate now has to reduce that by 1.2% on labour costs. So over the last, I suppose, 6 years since this government, we've actually been the highest increase in public sector wages for any industry going forward. So the 2014 around, which is somewhat contentious, senior fireys and SOs got over 4% for what's selling off OT in general, changes to op support. But other than that, we've sold no conditions, we've held the farm, and we're doing quite well. Now, going into the future, that's the past. Going into the future, how are we going to do things? Well, it's simple. It's changing the rules. Now, I can sit there and promise you 6%. I can promise, but in the end, it's not achievable. We've got to change this government or change this government's mind. They're the ones that are writing the legislation. They're the ones that we've got to get and get it changed. Now, the work that I did last year with Labor to take a policy position to the next election around changing IR laws will get us somewhat there. The devil's always in the detail with this lot, as I don't think one spot's issue is much different to the other. But certainly, I think, one of the things that we are going to do going forward is become more politically involved. Now, that doesn't mean for one party or the other. I know we're a very broad church in who we vote for, but certainly as firefighters, we need to leverage our brand and get that out there so we can change the rules.
All right, thanks, Leighton. And I agree with changing the laws, and I think that's a broader industrial movement for the collective union movement. And I think getting more involved with them is a good thing. So I don't have a problem with that. But I think we also have to be a little bit smarter about how we improve productivity. And one of the things which ties a little bit into the last question around well-organised delegates, sub-branch secretaries, feeding into the committee. One of the things that's really frustrated me as a firefighter, and I imagine it does everybody, that the skills and talents that we have as workers is not valued by the department. All right, we have some really smart, engaged members of fire rescue, and they never get to contribute into bigger discussions. I see a robust delegate system doing that. Good ideas bubble up from the coalface through the union side of the discussion, then that's where we get our productivity benefits. So when we go to negotiate wages, we've got runs on the boards because so-and-so at this station came up with a great idea, we've taken that and we've implemented it, and then we're doing more work, or we're doing smarter work, or we're saving money, or whatever that innovation is, then that can be productivity benefits, and that's where you get your increase above the 2.5 productivity benefits. So, and I think to talk about paid organisers help the system. They don't replace the system. And I think if we want, one of the challenges is if the system's not working, the sub-branch secretaries are not doing everything that they're asked to do. So let's work out how we can support them to do that. Okay, because if we just continue to ask them to do the same thing and expect the different results, that doesn't make sense. Whereas if we say, all right, what support do you need from the union office to be able to do your job better, to engage with the members better, to come up with ideas from the coalface to make us more productive, and therefore give us really, really good proactive arguments when it comes to wage rises. They're things that you've got to be smart about. Industrially we can't change some things, but we can definitely be smarter and more engaged as a union movement to increase our salaries.
Look, again, and I realise Mark hasn't got the experience or the knowledge on this sort of stuff. You can go and do as much, productivity, as you want. You don't get paid for it. It's as simple as that. You've got to sell something. You've got to give up your annual leave. You've got to, find tricky little, industrially savvy ways to reduce overtime and slot it back in. You can go and work harder. You can go and do a course. You can go and do all this extra stuff. You can work your body to the bone. You're not getting a pay rise on that under this legislation. It's as simple as that. You know, we can come up with these great ideas. We can do MFR for nothing. We can go and sweep streets. We can go and do all of that sort of stuff. But in the end, you don't get paid for it. You know, let's be clear. Let's all start working off this same base of where IR is in New South Wales at the moment, and it's against us. It's as simple as that. You know, it's not about being, you know, clever, producing more, doing more for less. We've got to change that conversation. We've got to do more for more. Or we don't do it. They make them change the law, make them come back to us and say, we want you to do this. We're not doing it. Why? Because you're going to pay us for it. Simple as that. Let's not get caught up in this management and this government speak about, come on, pull your socks up, there's only a certain part of the pie. It's crap. We need to get out there and say, we are workers. You pay us for our time here and you pay us for our skills. That's where we're going.
I don't disagree that we need to be remunerated for what we do, but also we need to be smarter about that. One of the things that has happened over the past is we haven't moved above the 2.5%. All right, so it doesn't matter what we've given away, we're still at 2.5. So, you know, we've given away operational support salaries. We've given away, which has led into less training positions, which has led into less training. If you're being anybody that's at a fire station in the last 10 years should have noticed a significant decrease in the training support at fire stations. Now, that has saved the department money, and it's probably eroded our capability because we're not getting the training that we were getting, but we haven't got any more money for that. So we do need to get smarter about it. We need to be engaged about it. And I think the reactive arguments around if you want more money, what have we got to give away? I know the technical rescue guys said, hey, we've got a new truck. We should get paid a technical rescue allowance as opposed to a rescue allowance. And they were told, well, yep, tell us what you're going to give away so you get a bigger allowance. I don't think it's their job to come up with what they're going to give away. Let's work out and say, hey, we've increased our skills. Let's make an argument to the government or to the department why we need to get paid more. That's the job of the union, to make a coherent argument to the department on why salaries need to be increased.
All right, question number 5 is about delegates. In light of the serious decline in delegate recruitment, training, activism and involvement over the last 5 years, the deliberate structural centralisation of the union activity and undermining of the station and workplace delegates by employers of the union, and shift towards the over-reliance of industrial officers rather than union members addressing issues, will you commit to change the union rules in your first term of office to require the employment of at least 2 additional union organisers dedicated to organising, resourcing and training workplace delegates, and the requirement that all members of the Committee of Management and democratically elected workplace delegates send copies of each meeting's agendas at least 48 hours prior to the meeting starting, and an annual delegate forum with the power to set policy which can only be overturned by the union's membership. Mark.
This is a key element of my platform, has been for the last election and for this election, that we need to, the system's not broken, we need to support it better. We need to get delegates, we need to have timely responses to people's questions from the union office. And every station I've visited, I don't think I've visited a station yet where I haven't had someone say, yep, I had a phone call, haven't heard back, or it took forever to hear back. Rule number 1 is, if someone makes a call to the office, they will get a timely response. So even if that call says, hey, sorry, we can't help you in the short term, but we will get back to you in the longer term. That positive communication and guarantee of service is essential from the union office, number 1. Number 2, delegate organisation. There are some really, really good delegates out there who send updates via email to all of their sub-branches, but not everyone does that. So let's work out how we systemise that better, and that's where we put organisers in place. We put organisers in place to write social media posts, to respond quickly to people's questions. You put organisers in place to visit the fire stations with elected officials. Imagine if you get an organiser turns up with the sub-branch secretary or a member of the sub-branch executive, has a discussion with you, takes your questions back to the sub-branch and then on to the SCOM, and then you're getting information from the coalface to the SCOM, and that's essential in part of a positive democratic organisation. That's what good organisers should do. That's what's not happening. You know, if you're a member of the city sub-branch, you haven't seen the sub-branch secretary because he's got other things going on in his life. We completely understand that. Let's provide him with some support so that he can do the best job he can possibly do. And that's where some paid organisers do that. So this question pretty well aligns with exactly what I think needs to change in the union setup at the moment. We need more professional support to our elected officials. And if we give them that professional support, then they're going to be able to do a better job.
So I suppose I understand this question is about how do we get members more involved, more organised, obviously industrially and politically. So there's a couple of different parts to this. First of all, look, we need no rule changes. We need no rule changes for the staff. Staff employment. Staff employment isn't in the rules. All right. So the secretary hires and fires whoever they think they need to help them out. That's how that works. How do you get people engaged? How do you get people engaged? The system that I'll be running out with the rule changes, you know, for everyone to have a look at, will certainly, you know, step all this out for you. We're going to be having branch delegates. Each station will have to be a branch. We'll be holding a biannual, not annual, policy setting meeting of members, and I think those people will then be able to, you know, determine what goes on, you know, in our union going forward. And I don't think we need to do it annually, unfortunately. Like, too much policy sometimes doesn't give you enough continuity. But as for the organisers, and I understand this is a key part of Mark's platform, is that you've now got an organiser and a sub-branch secretary whose job, who he's put their hand up to do, and he's saying that they're not doing it. Well, that's okay. Don't put your hand up. Like, I'm not trying to be cruel here. If you don't want to run your sub-branch, don't put your hand up. Now, over the last, you know, 3 years, we've had one last month. We had a guy step down off state committee and said, you know what, can't do the job anymore. No worries. Happy days. You can't do the job anymore, step aside. Now, on that sub-branch committee, they have 3 sub-branch executives, you know, which is where Mark is, and that's where I started. And you've got 4 people in the sub-branch that should be out there talking to their members. And if they're not, when it comes around to voting these people in, don't. Put simply, that is what March is about. And the year after that, when we elect the sub-branch executive, that's what that is about. So you want people to organise, want people to engage with you, have a look what they're saying, have a look what they're doing, and ask them for their commitment. Are you going to be here for 3 years? Because if you're not, don't stick your hand up.
Well, 2 things I want to address. The first is that it's great to say, hey, when I'm elected, I'm going to do this. And I'm going to get away with saying that because I haven't been sitting in the seat for the last 18 months or the 6 years prior to that. But if all these are great ideas, Leighton, why haven't they happened? You know, if we need to put pressure on sub-branch secretaries to step up and sub-branch executives to step up, who's not been doing that? It's not been me. But so if you've got some great new ideas, can you explain to us why you haven't been doing them for the last 6 years? And on the support front, I think some sub-branch secretaries are stepping down because they haven't had the support from the union office. All right. So if they need someone to write their emails for them, let's get someone to write their emails for them. We want to make their job as easy as possible because there are other things going on in people's life than just being a union representative. You know, and I understand that if family, work, all those other factors definitely take the lead in front of being a member of the union. But you know, if they don't have the capacity, we can either say, thanks for your help, see you later, or we can say, what do we need to do to help you do your job?
Well, look, thank you for the segue. What have I done? I ran the Sydney Central West sub-branch. Anyone here from that sub-branch? Sammy? Wayne? Once I first got elected into that sub-branch, I ran around and spoke to every single person in that sub-branch and got their email address. got 90% of sub-branches' email addresses. Then I emailed them constantly to the point where they were emailing telling me to stop. I ran forum after forum out there. I got the ex-secretary to come out and explain things to them. I got the sub-branch executive together and said, right, what do we want to put on state committee? Let's have the policy. Held sub-branch meetings. When I went to junior vice president, I started doing that with all the other secretaries. I organised the sub-branch executive training day, and now that I'm the secretary, most of you should be receiving SITREP in your email. And if you're not, please update your details, because that'll be really handy. Because if you don't update your details, you also probably won't get a ballot to vote. So what have I been doing? I've been doing a fair bit. And I've been looking back in West, and it's funny, Mark, at his debate with Jim at Baulkham Hills, actually said, you know what, I think what Leighton and Trevor are doing are the way we should go. Straight out of his mouth. I'm asking, that's the way that we should be organising, and that's the way I'm now driving that through the rest of this union. Sorry, let's go.
All right. Now we're going to open it to the floor and take some questions if anybody would like to throw some at these guys.
Yeah, I have got a question. Tossing up between, I think we were talking about...
Do you want the mic?
No, not at all. Speak up, Corky. Rightio. Look, we spoke before, Leighton mentioned about, wanting Porsches and that. And then spoke about us changing legislation. It probably falls into that same category of it's nice to have on the top of the wish list, but how do we change legislation? We know from decades of experience that legislation doesn't just that we can't just write it and send it off to a minister or to the Senate and get it.
So the question is, how do we go about changing legislation so we can achieve better pay rises?
Yeah, what's the reality behind doing that and achieving that? So that's to Leighton, sorry, initially, and then Mark, if you'd like to comment.
Oh yeah, look, good question. So some of the groundwork around that's been done. Most of you understand what the ACTU is, but we've also got a New South Wales peak body called Unions New South Wales. Now it's their job to sort of, discuss these types of issues with all their affiliates, which we're a part of. So at the beginning of last year, they ran, we started